Hi. The film I will be talking about today is Network. This film stars Faye Dunaway, William Holden, Ned Beatty, Robert Duvall, Beatrice Straight, and Peter Finch. That's a pretty impressive lineup. This film was released in 1976 and was written by Paddy Chayefsky. When you watch this film, it's as if Chayefsky was staring into a crystal ball and predicted where television was headed. A film that came before this one, A Face in the Crowd, you could kind of say the same thing about it, and you get the feeling watching Network that Chayefsky had to have been a big fan of A Face in the Crowd, which stars Andy Griffith and was written by Bud Schulberg and directed by Kazan. Do yourself a favor, if you haven't seen that one, watch that one as well. I'll probably do a video on it later. However, at the time when A Face in the Crowd came out, we didn't quite know just how big television was going to get. This film takes place, it's set in 75, it was released in 1976, and it's about this fictional network called UBS. This is before Fox, so the only three you had were ABC, NBC, and CBS. This network's dead last in the ratings. They're on their last leg. They're kind of just trying to establish an audience, doing their best. And as the film starts, we're introduced to Howard Beale, who's played brilliantly by Peter Finch, who won an Oscar for his part in this film. And he's standing with Max Shoemaker, who's played also brilliantly. I'm going to be using the word brilliantly a lot in this review, by William Holden. And Howard Beale has just found out he's got 2 weeks left. He's done. His time as a news anchor has come to an end. And he goes on air and announces on the next broadcast he'll kill himself. And everybody is shocked that he has said something like this. We can't let him go on. He's got nothing to lose at that point. Well, his friend pulls some strings for him and says, look, just let him go on, William Holden. Just let him have his last hurrah. He promised he'll be well behaved. He's not going to do anything stupid. Well, when they give him that next slot, he just goes on about how all life is basically BS. And he just doesn't have any more to give. And he is unfiltered and he just lets it fly. And William Holden knows that he's going to do this, and he just lets it happen because he's just come from a very unhappy meeting where he's disgusted with what's getting ready to take place with the news program. It's his friend. Let him say what he wants to say. Well, the vice president who's in charge of programming at UBS is Diana Christensen. And Faye Dunaway gives an Oscar-winning performance in this movie, and it is warranted. She's the one that sees there's potential here. And she notices the numbers jump when he has this meltdown. And she's the one to say, we can't lose him. He's the one area where he brings volatility. He brings anger. We need that. I could make this news program a top-rated show. We'll be right up there with All in the Family and the Mary Tyler Moore Show and Phyllis and every other thing that they're putting out there. And most of the people are standing around with their mouth like, what? You just want some guy to go on and meander and just spit it out and say all these crazy things? And she's the one that says, yeah, this is where we're headed. Let him go. The ratings spike. America is ready for an angry prophet. And she's the one that's in charge of program, but she's now getting into the news arena and saying news can be entertainment. And I'm the one to do it. I'm going to take this show over and we're going to take it somewhere else. And William Holden, he can't go along with this. He's a true broadcaster in the mold of Edward R. Murrow and Walter Cronkite and David Brinkley. You know, the news is meant to have integrity. The news is not meant to be entertainment. It's meant to inform. And he still holds true to those values. And he's starting to see in this new climate, he's a dinosaur. There's no room for that. Get out of the way. And he looks at Faye Dunaway and says, I can't go along with this. She approaches him one night and says, we could even get a psychic on there. We could really make this thing happen. And she kind of says, look, I really just came in here to speak to you as a kind gesture, to show you your respect. He doesn't bite, but either way, I'm taking over this show. I'm in with the important people at the corporation. They will listen to me. We're going to make this happen. Well, William Holden's discussed that he wants no part of this, but he's letting Howard Beale stay at his house. Well, when Howard Beale is with William Holden, he meanders out one night, and Holden comes in and says, look, I don't know where he is, but he's having a breakdown. He's had a mental break. He's disillusioned. He's out of touch with reality. And they're going nuts saying, dude, Russ, he's going to be our cash cow. We got to know where he is. And he looks at them and says, listen, I'm not going to sit here and watch my friend be exploited like some freak. It's not going to happen. And the man at the corporation, Frank Hackett, played by Robert Duvall, basically says, it is going to happen, and you're out of here. Bye. I've been wanting to do this for a while. You're gone. It's over. You can't stop us anymore. You can take your little sentimental values and walk right out that door. There's no place for that here. This is a cutthroat world, a world that you obviously aren't prepared to live in. Well, Beale meanders in, and he's in his pajamas. It's been raining outside. He's got this long coat on, and they're immediately scrambling to get him on the air. And he has this breakdown, and it concludes, the finale of it is him screaming and saying, I want everybody to say I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Go to your windows and scream it. Well, William Holden's seeing this at home, and he's just aghast, like, is this really happening? His daughter gets up, and he goes, what are you doing? She said, I want to hear if people are really doing it. She puts the windows up. They're all out there screaming. And it's thundering and lightning, and you just see William Holden out there, and he kind of shakes his head. He knows where this is headed. And he also knows this is not a prophet. This is a man who is spiraling out of control and is being exploited against his will. He's the only one that seems to care. He's the only one that still sees him as a person and not as a personality. He knows he can't stop it. And it's just this feeling of, we've entered a new world now. Television has slowly robbed all of us of humanity. And the part that really brings it home is this getting into the news division now. We'd come up until this point, yeah, there had been I Love Lucy, there had been the Mary Tyler Moore, but the news was sacred. And now they're bastardizing that. They've taken it, and they've cheapened it, and they've turned it into something pornographic. This has been his life's work. This is an institution that he was proud to be a part of. And it's been reduced to a tabloid, to a rating. And there's a scene earlier in the film when Faye Dunaway's talking, and she said, this year for programming, I want angry shows. I want anger. That's what we've got to have, anger. That's what people want. And as I said, Chayefsky, who wrote this, it's as if it's eerie how prophetic this was, because when this film was released, it was seen as a satire. If you watch it now, you say, where's the satire? It feels more like a documentary. We've gotten to where Diana Christensen, played by, wanted us to go. She seemed to know, and Chayefsky seemed to know as he's writing this, that we were headed toward a world, toward rubberneck journalism, where it's all about trials like the Karen Reed trial and some podcaster named Turtle Boy who shows up and people putting posters up. And it's about everything other than the person that died. We're not worried about that anymore. The O.J. Simpson trial, the white Bronco, Everybody's watching because this could end in him killing himself, a shootout with the police. Who's really thinking, well, 2 people just got murdered? That's sad, but boy, this is good television. And this is front page stuff. And it's so disturbing because the biggest threat to any democracy is misinformation. We have a ton of it now. And as they've always said, you're entitled to your own opinion. You're not entitled to your own set of facts. And in this day and time, people don't really even seem to watch the news for information as much as they watch it for validation. So they can sit there and have beliefs that they already have reinforced. That's the only reason they're watching anymore. It's not about what's going on in another country. It's about hearing some guy get on there and rant. Some guy or girl. Anger is what sells. And I remember a couple years ago when Rush Limbaugh died, I was talking with somebody, and he said, well, he was the first conservative to really have a platform. And I said, well, what about William F. Buckley on Firing Line? And he went, well, yeah, you had that, but that was kind of boring. It was cerebral. But in the world we're in now, cerebral is boring. And watching this film, it was almost like Chayefsky and Sidney Lumet as the director, like they were trying to say something to America, like, pay attention. Because we as the public, we can stop this. But not only has the public not stopped it, they seem to demand it. They don't want to be told the truth. They want to be lied to. They don't want what they need. And the media is more than willing to give us our fix for the tawdry. Every Friday night you can turn it on NBC and it's going to be a Dateline murder mystery. And they'll leave you on that cliffhanger, so don't leave yet. Because, coming up next, we're going to find out whether that husband was as good a guy as we thought he was. And somebody's life has been condensed to a 2-hour way to entertain somebody who's just sitting at home on a Friday night, and we're watching about a husband who had a mistress somewhere else. 48 hours, court TV, all of it. And in the film, William Holden's character develops a romantic relationship with Diana Christensen, even though she has, I wouldn't say she even has values he finds objectionable. She doesn't have values. But she has presence, and she's attractive, and she's motivated. And even as a viewer, you can't take your eyes off of her. So you see how Holden is brought into her world. And the scenes that are so interesting, they're having a romantic getaway, and Holden's married in the film. But his wife's out of town to visit their daughter in Seattle, and they're kind of having this little rendezvous. And it cuts from like them being at a restaurant, them being at the hotel. And in every scene, all Faye Dunaway is doing is talking about the shares, how many viewers they're getting, what her next idea is when the show. Even when they're in bed in the throes of passion, where her mind really is, at work. He's secondary. And her reaction to her work is almost of an orgasmic nature when things are going well. She only feels it there. She doesn't have it anymore for 2 people. He doesn't really even understand why he cares for her the way that he does. And as the film progresses, we see that they take Howard Beale and they kind of morph this show into something of a circus where the audience chants, "We're mad as hell," and it's like the Howard Beale hour. And we see it just turn into this train wreck that people just seem to crave. But, we need more. And they're giving it to them. And as this is going along, it finally hits a snare when he says something that offends the people at the corporation. And they get on the phone to Duvall's character, and they demand that he come back, and he come back with Howard Beale. And there's a scene where Ned Beatty is talking to Howard Beale. He represents the corporate world. And, Howard Beale put all their negative stuff out in this one rant to the public. And he says, the world that you live in no longer exists, or the world that you lived in. We are no longer a world of nations, ideology. We're not that anymore. We are a world of corporations. And you've got to understand that. This patriotism, it's gone. And then he says, and I want you to carry this message. And Beale looks at him and says, why? And he said, because you're on TV, dummy. The power that you have, they look at that box, they see you in it. You've got a power that none of us have. That platform, they're a slave to it. And eventually, Beale's ratings start to tank. But the people at corporate won't let him go. And as this is starting to happen, the personal lives of the characters are also starting to devolve. And Holden finally admits to his wife that he's been having an affair with Dunaway. And she's disgusted, like we've had this life together. And she looked at him and she says something. And Beatrice Straight, who does the acting in this scene, she's only on film for 5 minutes and she won an Academy Award, and it's well deserved. Your heart breaks for her in this scene. And she looks at him and she says, even if you can't work up a winter passion for me, I'm your wife. We've built this up. I at least expected respect and allegiance. And you couldn't even give me that. You've saved what's left for somebody that you know doesn't care. She even says, do you think she cares for you? And he says very honestly, I don't know if she's capable of it. She's of this generation. Everything she learned about humanity, she learned from television. And later, Holden makes a break from Dunaway. And he says to her, it's over. If I stay with you, I'll become a humanoid. You'll destroy me the way you destroyed my friend Howard. I've got to get out. You're TV incarnate. You taint in everything you touch. So you are. You're indifferent to suffering. You're insensitive to joy. All of life to you, the war, the poverty, the grief, you just kind of, the daily rubble of banality means nothing to you. It means no more than, selling time to a certain company to advertise their beer. People aren't real to you. Nothing is. And I've got to go. I've got to get out. And he knows he's with somebody who's almost trying to orchestrate life as if it's a TV show. And he can't live that way. And there's a scene earlier when he says to her, at the age that he is, death is a perceivable thing to me now, with definable features. I can't live the rest of my life this way. And the things that you and those like you call sentimental or idealistic in my time was just basic human decency. And he leaves, and Dunaway seems stricken as much as somebody like her can be. And then the next, you see her, Duvall, the other characters in the film, discussing what are we going to do about Howard Beale. Corporate won't let us get rid of him. And finally, Duvall just says very nonchalantly, we've got to have him killed. Nobody flinches. Yeah, he's destroying us. We got to get him off the air, and that's the only way we can do it. They set up for him to be assassinated on a live broadcast. And what is done brilliantly by Lumet is once that happens, the camera pulls back, and then a box up here, you see the footage. Here you see an advertisement for beer. Here you see that commercial where they're going, Mikey likes it, he really likes it. And then down here you see again more footage of Howard Beale. And then the narrator of the film, Howard Beale, the first man to ever be killed because his ratings were low. And this film, I'd seen it a couple times before, but every time you see it, you come away with something new. It is such a well-written film. Watching it and hearing the dialogue, it's for anybody that ever wanted to write, it's almost like this film intimidates you. He's so good, like reading a William Styron novel. He is so at his peak. And then you get a director like Lumet, and then you get a cast like this. It was like the Chicago Bulls of the 1990s. You got Michael Jordan as the player, Phil Jackson as the coach, and then this supporting cast of players to help him. It was a beautiful thing to watch, and that's what this film is. And as prophetic as this ended up being, unfortunately, and as sad of a message as it has to deliver, I still find comfort in watching this film, because for it to have been written and for it to have been made, there had to be people to see what was going on, and that were also repulsed by it and made this film. And it's a reminder that there are those out there that can see through the smoke and mirrors. And we can at least find some comfort in that. It may be a minority, but it's better than nothing. Until next time.